Hey, Jeff.
Hey,
How's it going,
what's
man?
Jeff? What's Jeff, by the way?
Well, okay. So J-Dub, we'll call you J-Dub. We got J-Dub and JP. I figured at some point the four of us should start like a band very similar to Beastie Boys. We got J-Dub, JP, Double D, and then
like
the big
like
head
98 degrees.
Yeah, basically something like that.
Perfect.
Anyways, I wanted to chat about like why business expense reporting is so freaking awful. And I figured that this is probably the right group of people to talk about it with. So we recently wrote a blog on it. And I'm just curious if you guys have any thoughts, J-Dub, I'll pick on you first. When we think about like ClearSpend and like what we're trying to solve, like what do you think goes through a small business owner's head when they're looking at like expense reporting?
Yeah, I think we're kind of unique in the fact that we're building a product that we ourselves needed, right? So we were struggling with looking at expenses and having to manage that. I mean, you were part of that where we had our month-end closing. That was an arduous process. It would take days, if not weeks, to get completed. We were looking at the other tools that were out there.
Let me interrupt and say, like, when I joined ClearSpend, I had a full head of hair. And then it just all migrated south because before the solution was live, it was painful what we were doing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I mean, and that's you think about where a lot of these businesses live today. That is absolutely crippling for them to be focusing on something that's administrative and that's actually producing no revenue, right? It's not saving them any costs. It's a major cost center. So it's an opportunity for them to go ahead and basically through automation, prevent that from happening. I think probably more meaningful, like for those that don't know what we do, we prevent spend at ClearSpend that should never occur in the first place, right? So like our job is to make it so that even before the end of the month, you should know that the expense report is basically done, right? So like we've got all this information that we're using through essentially a prepaid debit card that allows for you to go ahead and track how that card should be used. So let's just use really quickly a landscaping business, right? Somebody who's got a lawn care business, what have you. So, the owners of those businesses, we actually talked to quite a few, and they were saying, a lot of the guys have to either carry cash or they have to just, bite the bullet and give their team members an American Express to essentially go ahead and buy what they need to, get a copy of the receipt, upload the expense report, and kind of this laborious process that existed. So when we came and said, listen, if you could, we're going to give you a card. You can then give that person that card, whoever that employee is, and say, you can only pay at the pump. You can't buy anything actually in store. Would that be something that you'd be excited about? And they were like, well, yeah. And I'm like, okay, then you can also
go in and get my Red Bull and beef jerky on the company card too. I mean, this is kind of a downer.
Yeah, well, you're exactly who we want to avoid in that scenario, right? So what we're trying to do is make it so that you don't have to trace these people down. In addition, like as transactions are being declined, if they don't follow the spend policies, it's really an opportunity to kind of course correct with those team members, right? You still have that opportunity to engage with them. You can go in there and say, hey, listen, we really need to kind of shift the dialogue and figure out why you're trying to do this. Is it ill intent, or is it truly just, hey, listen, I'm not aware of the policy. And obviously we're hoping that it's the latter, but it allows for you to have that engagement, which I think is really meaningful. And Derek, you're somebody who runs our sales team. You've been part of other organizations like Slidebean and also even Xero. You've probably heard some of these pain points beforehand as well. I think specifically around how expense reports work, and not only that, but also in addition to that, a lot of points is that it's reactive, right? You've got accountants, you've got CFOs that are doing end of month and stuff like that as well. And then all of a sudden they come and they go, well, you're way off budget. You can prevent all that from happening from the very beginning by having a platform like this. So love to hear your thoughts on it too.
Yeah, it's a pain point, seeing every startup I've worked with, all the startups that we've worked with within that startup. It's, being able to set a policy, get everybody to adhere to it. That can oftentimes be impossible. And this is where tools like this save us, tons of time. You set the controls, you can go many levels deep with it, departments, individuals, projects, you name it. and have, just full control over the situation. And Jeff made a great point and actually came up in a demo this morning. The client works with lots of subcontractors, and it's really hard to communicate with them what the expectation is. And they always tend to spend outside of what that expectation might be. And he saw the perfect opportunity in ClearSpend, to keep them limited to just going to Home Depot and buying their supplies and not going to Burger King for lunch. And, it's all right there.
Nice. What kind of business was it?
Construction. They do home remodels.
Interesting. And so Tom Sullivan, who works on our team, he is like a lot of the mastermind around our content. And when I was reading one of the recent blog posts that he did on this very topic, one of the things that blew my mind that I didn't know was, I think he had said something that was like, the average company spends up to $40,000 a year in wasted like expense reports or time and efficiency and stuff. And it typically takes 2 years to catch that. And I was thinking like, so if you're a startup or you're a small business and you're constantly like, not only are you playing HR, you're playing finance, you're playing like coach, you're scheduling, you're doing your customer service, anything and everything. But more times than not, these guys don't have the ability to always be looking and optimizing what's happening in terms of like business processes because they're spread so much and all over the place. JP, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a real challenge just in terms of, what it takes to actually run a process to do an expense report review process. And I think the other thing too is that expense reports presume that everybody has a card that they can pay with. And
that's a good point.
With interviewing a lot of our customers, particularly with, we talk to entertainment producers and, people that do things like tutoring and stuff like that. And, if you have younger employees and contractors, they don't necessarily have much of a line of credit. So if you need to send them out on a job or whatever, or they're at their limit and they need to check into a hotel or buy supplies to run a big catering event or something, they're stuck. We talk to companies that say the way that they get a trucker out of a jam if they need to do a repair while they're, out transporting a load, they use PayPal and Venmo and, it's, we tell people that it's, you can issue a debit card that has a fixed budget that only works where you want it to work. And you can send it to somebody instantly, even at 2:00 in the morning on a Saturday. And it works with Apple Pay or Google Pay. It really becomes a very empowering thing.
I love that. So real quick, I'm curious, anyone have like a horror story of where you've had to, like where you worked for a company where you didn't have your own expense card and you've have to use your own credit someplace? I sure shit do. Like I can tell Jeff White, you're chomping at the bit to answer this question.
Well, yeah. I used to work for a PE group beforehand, and we had to go ahead and use our own cards and submit for reimbursement, right? So when at first when the team and I'm part of the founding team, but when the chairman and also some of the board members of ClearSpend approached me and said, hey, listen, this is what we're trying to do and bring to the U.S. market. What do you think? And man, I was like doing backflips because I was like, man, I'm experiencing this pain point myself, right? It's taking 45 days on average for me to get reimbursement. Sometimes I'm actually carrying the float because American Express, I would have to pay on my behalf and then wait to get reimbursed in my check. And I was like, this is just super painful. Interest? No, what I would have to do is basically, I would actually have to pay the balance of the card off, right? Because it was just like an American Express. So let's say I had $12,000 of expenses. I'm personally paying that $12,000 of expenses that I'm carrying either for travel or whatever it may be, essentially to pay the card off, because I may not receive that reimbursement until the end of the following month, and that payment's due the middle of that month. And so, I just experienced that pain point myself. And when I heard that there was a way of us having to prevent that, and if you take in combination, really what I'm seeing kind of in this evolution of expense management is that you kind of had major disparate players. Number one, you had, Expensify, which really didn't have any preventative spend. It's purely a retroactive platform. It's kind of the next best level to Expensify. To Excel, right? And so you had that, but then you're charging a monthly fee for really limited functionality. And then you had the other side of the equation, which is like the ramps, which kind of had this real sense of arrogance that they came out and were like, yeah, we're not going to bring this downstream into the SMB space. But the value was there, right? And so we were sitting there looking at it going, okay, there's a lot of business that's out there that actually, I would argue the further downstream you come, the bigger our value thesis becomes, right? Because and that's not just for us, but anybody who's trying to solve this problem. That's really what is really important to see, is that for a small business, 12 to 15 grand can really make the difference between making payroll and not making payroll, right? That's a real question.
$5,000 in the bank to even qualify, right?
Right.
For like Ramp as an example, which, I mean, I don't know when you're a small business, you have more dollars going out than you do have coming in. And so even trying to qualify for a solution like that seems like a monumental effort. But Derek, I'm curious, have you had any horror stories about where you've had to use your own personal card for traveling or for work purchases?
Oh yeah. As a young salesperson, like in my early 20s, didn't have that line of credit that you might have, as an adult, and always getting stuck paying for flights, paying for meals with leads or prospects, and those were always steak and lobster dinners, hundreds of dollars, if
you're
not,
eating better on those events than you are at home, right?
Absolutely, because the company has that expectation that you're going to wine and dine them, but right. Not that they care enough to issue you a corporate Amex, or maybe they didn't have that ability. Maybe they were beholden to bring up 85 grand in the bank and they couldn't facilitate that, so lots of times that, got stuck paying that out. And then, like Jeff said, 45 days, it generally took that long. They were not in a rush because, they already got you to take care of it. So you're carrying the float, or you're stuck paying the interest if they don't move fast enough. And, that might have worked 20 years ago, but nobody's really going for that anymore. It's 2022.
Right. JP, I know you worked at a few startups yourself, right? And so
they had maxed out all of their cards, and I was working on a software project in Sydney. They needed me to go to Sydney on like 3 days notice. And they're like, yep, we got all approved, got your seat, got your travel visa. You don't have your room left on our card. Can you pay for this? And so I had to put the bill for a $19,000 business class to Sydney, and
oh my God,
business class ticket. And then when I got there, I had to pay for my hotel for 2 weeks.
Oh my God!
All the company cards were maxed out. And then of course it's like the big wait for it's. I put it on like my personal SPG Amex that's like due every month, and had like whatever 20% interest. So it was like,
oh my God,
biting my fingernails. I'm like, is my company going to pay me that?
Yeah, I was going to say the level of anxiety that gives me hearing that. I'm like, oh God. Well, I'll be in the corner crying if you need me. That comes in. Jesus. Oh my God. Yeah, I've had a few of those experiences myself. I remember like several times I've had to pay for flights or hotels or things out of my own cards, and then it's like 50 days later, I'm really hoping that that reimbursement hits my bank account at some point, because it's really nice to pay that off. But that's a terrible way to do business. So why do you think on that note, why do you think you got, all of you collectively, I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. Why do you think that some people haven't adopted a solution like us yet?
From the customers I talk to every day, they just don't know, especially the small businesses, because you have big players like Ramp and Divvy and Brex in the startup space. They don't market to them. There's no visibility. So they don't know that there's a better way. And that's what we spend a lot of our time on our demos, just educating them. And they have like these, oh, wow moments, when they realize like, oh, there is I don't need to waste all this time. I don't have to lose 40 grand a year to fraud. I can solve the hours that we spend doing end of month, wrap up and reconciliation.
I would agree with you. I see that too. Just like some, like the comments we get or the emails or the DMs that we get. I mean, people seem to be like, I think everyone, all of us can collectively raise our hand and agree that when we've talked to customers, every time we've talked to someone, they can't believe that, one, this is free, and now they're like, why haven't I heard about this yet? And then when can I get my hands on it? Because fixing small business expense reports, like that is something I think anyone would sign up for in an instant, especially knowing that it's free. What do you think, J-Dub?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's something that as somebody who ran multiple companies before, I've owned multiple businesses over the year. One of the things that I've seen is that having platforms that are out there that provide meaningful value, that also really solve for pain points without charging an arm and a leg, should resonate with the business, right? I mean, that just naturally, and the ROI on it is twofold. Number one is that you're not going to go ahead and have any true cost for getting the program, right? So, I mean, like everything on there as far as time savings is going to the bottom line. The other side that's probably more meaningful is also the spend that's being prevented that you shouldn't have going out the door anyways. I think both of those things are truly the most important. And so like you look at it and you're, from my side, like even if you had things like, for example, if you want to contain, not to pick on you, Nate, but marketing and ad spend, then you can, right? Or if you wanted to go ahead and you want to send a team out for dinner like Derek and his group, but you're worried about creating some containers around what can you spend on without my knowledge, then at that point, then you can create that. And then you can get visibility post-transaction. So I think that those are the things that we really are bringing to the market outside of just, a really amazing user experience. I know we're all biased on this call, right? But at the same point too, I think the thing that was really different was, Jeff and the team really worked on meeting with customers that were looking for this type of a solution, and most of them didn't even know it existed, right? That something like this would even come to the surface and be available was really awesome. And then second to that was incorporating their voice into the product. That was something meaningful, right? We built something based on what the market wanted versus us just kind of throwing darts at a board.
Yeah. And so Jeff Pitticow is our VP of product. It's like, Jeff, as you have been a part of ClearSpend and you talk to many, many customers and you're showing this to them, like what's some of the sentiment that you're hearing directly from the customer?
I think some of the things that really resonate with customers include the ability to issue your own cards. Like that's something entirely new. Most of these businesses, they deal with Amex, they deal with banks, and to them, all they know is, oh, I got a new employee, I need to issue a card. I need to go to this website, I need to call a person, I need to have them fill out a form. And, ClearSpend, you show them this step. Why don't you just log in and, issue a virtual card, and it's instant. You can send somebody a physical card and it will be there within 5 to 10 days. If you have that, people do this, it happens. You terminate an employee on a weekend or whatever, and they've got a physical card. If you control that card, you can shut it off immediately. So it puts you in, you have all of the immediate controls. I think the other thing with the spend controls is very interesting. I mean, how many of us, raise your hand, all of us have done this at one point where it's like, oh, I have a gold Amex card and I have a gold corporate card and they look exactly the same. And, maybe I accidentally buy a television at Best Buy with it. And then, and those things get all cleaned up.
Yeah, it's
a lot of noise for the business to I've got to do a reverse expense report, and then they have to take the money out of my paycheck, and it's like no harm, no foul, but still it's a lot of hassle and a lot of time to kind of go after those accidental purchases. And then I think the other thing is,
real quick, are you using accidental in air quotes or are they
no. I think it really does happen. It's like, I think it's like more the exception than the norm. Then you have the rogue employee that just goes off on a bender to Vegas or whatever. And but really it is the occasional kind of accidental purchase. They just, they're stressed out, they're distracted, and they just use the wrong card by accident. People do it.
I think that's a good point, though. I think all of us can agree that we have more things going on now in our lives than at any other point ever in history. You're working from home, you're in most cases, there's just so many things that are vying for your attention. And when you have, by the way, our cards, a very shameless plug. the design in our cards are absolutely beautiful. So I just want to go ahead and throw that out there. Yeah, if you haven't seen them, it's beautiful. But no, I think like I can remember one time a funny story where I actually had left the company and they gave my Amex to someone else and someone who worked at the company because I didn't want to wait for a new one to come in. But I was getting the bill for it, and it was getting mailed to me. So like I'm seeing all these expenses coming in, and it's all tied to me, but it was somebody else spending the money at the company, and I'm like, well, hey, I don't really know what's happening here, but that's not fun. I'm trying to get that resolved. So
yeah, one more thing I think that really resonates with customers too is our free wallet app that basically every cardholder gets for iOS and Android that like makes it really easy to categorize a payment, upload a receipt. Particularly in construction or people out in the field, you leave that receipt in the dash of your truck and the sun bleaches it out and then it's no good anymore. Like our app makes it really easy to just take a picture of that receipt as soon as you made the payment, and it flows automatically into QuickBooks Online without you even, having to kind of like bother doing an expense report. And I think that's the other kind of like gee whiz moment is like, oh, you actually facilitate the collection of the receipt and you push it to QuickBooks automatically and it's saved there forever and I don't have to worry about that. That's kind of like the other magic moment that comes up when we do these custom.
Can we spend the whole second half of this just bashing everyone else and talking about how good we are and how we're doing everything so much better? I mean, that'd be great. I'd listen to that. But in all seriousness, I think like, Jeff White, you were talking earlier about how a lot of companies who have adopted a solution, they're paying an arm and a leg for it. Our entire feature set, just so everyone knows, is on the ClearSpend Go cards for the debit solution is completely free. And then you get the platform, you get all the features, all the benefits. Is it still unlimited cards? It's still unlimited cards.
Yeah. So you can have unlimited cards. I think there's when we say free, it's truly free.
Yeah.
So then naturally you're going to ask, well, how is the company staying in business, right?
Yeah. How are you using this guy every day?
Right.
And also Derek, because Derek likes Steve just as much as I do.
Exactly. So with that being said, so yeah, that's a heavy spend. Holy cow. So with that being said, like, I think it is important for people to understand how we make money. So Visa, MasterCard, we are integrated into the Visa network, and we charge what's called interchange, which actually is what your merchants, if you're using our program, are paying. Right. So you don't pay us, but your merchants do. So the credit card fees that they have, a portion of that comes to us. And a percentage of that. So we're able to provide all this amazing value by you just spending with the vendors that you're spending with today. One of the things that we are focused on too is long-term is really starting to identify savings opportunities for you as well. So you'll see that in our product roadmap. Cool. And another thing too that we're really focused on as well is getting out our QuickBooks integration, right? To save the amount of time that bookkeepers are actually pushing these transactions back in manually into systems like QuickBooks. And so, in fact, I believe our QuickBooks integration is going into beta most likely about next month, and we'll have that out relatively shortly after that. So right now we're focused on QuickBooks Online, and that's probably one of the kind of the table stake platforms that are out there. And then we'll move into alternative integrations, some into the mid-market and others also into the desktop platforms that are out there. So, I would say that probably, from my side, if I look at where we're really going to excel everybody's expectations, though, is just how fast it is to get set up. Like when we started to evaluate other platforms, and this is just in general, right? And people, especially small businesses, and as somebody who's run them, I know what I'm looking for. I want things to operate at the pace of play that I am. And so with that being said, I want to have a platform that stood up quickly, and I don't want to spend an immense amount of time, right? So we tried to make sure we minimize the amount of entry that a customer had getting our platform set up and let our system do the heavy labor of getting all of the details configured and everything ready to rock behind the scenes for you. And so, a customer can be up and running within about 10 to 20 minutes with our system. With our competitors right now, it's about anywhere from about a 3 to 4 week period of time to do that, and so I think that this, in closing from my side on this specific topic, that's important is because we're providing the speed at which we are, and in addition to that, providing the value that we are, we don't have a need to incur additional revenue streams. Like you look at Brex, for example, they just came out with what's called Inverse. Great concept, what have you, and it is. I mean, it's very similar to what we're doing with our allocations feature. The differentiation is that there's now a monthly fee tied to that, right? With us, there's not. We don't have monthly expenses associated directly. We don't want to be on your balance sheet. You shouldn't see us on your P&L, right? That's really important. Yeah. You should see us as a partner in what we're trying to accomplish for you.
I love that, and that's something I say a lot too. Is like I never want us to show up on the P&L. Like we should just be happening in the background. You're getting the benefits of saving time and money and having better spend controls and expense management solutions. You're getting a savings to the efficiency of having ClearSpend. And it just kind of operates like a slow cooker, like, you're just putting chili like I have downstairs. I know it's summer or coming summer here in Texas, but I'm cooking chili because don't judge me. I can already see the look that you're giving. It sounded good. Okay. But as it relates to ClearSpend, I mean, it's truly like you can set a card and its parameters and what you want it to be able to do, and then just forget about it. And then those rules automatically apply to that card all the time.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, and that's the set it and forget it kind of mentality, right? Like once you go through the initial configuration, and by the way, I think it's worthy of noting that our team here in customer success will make sure that you're up and running as well. That's another big part of this. So you don't have a lot of heavy lifting that you don't have to go through integration guides and all this kind of stuff, or set up and configuration, set up systems and stuff like that. It's very easy. It's designed to be intuitive, and more importantly too, if you need assistance, our team's there to help you.
I mean, but you got to talk to Derek first. You got to go funnel through him.
Absolutely.
And which could be.
That's a good point. The sales team's a resource. We're here to help them get onboarded, and it's generally taking 5 to 10 minutes to get, onboarded and issue your first card on average, which is super fast, especially compared, to the competition. And then you have a customer success resource, as time goes on. So you add new employees, you make an acquisition and have to onboard a group of employees, or, you want to troubleshoot best practices, from an expense management perspective, they'll jump in, they're a partner, they're a true partner in the process.
I think that's awesome. I think, for me, like, so someone asked me just over the weekend, actually, like, hey, so you're at ClearSpend now, 7 or 8 months, long what you know now, would you still join? I said, oh my God, yes. 1, look at these handsome guys I get to work with. And then 2, like, this is truly just a ton of fun. And I love what we're doing as well. I think the solution that we're bringing to market is really great. Again, I'm super biased, obviously, but I think we all are. And to me, I'm actually proud of that. Like, I'm not going to back away from thinking and believing that we're the best solution for small businesses, period. And I think that what we're doing, really, really showcases that. So chatting with me today, I probably should have done this at the very beginning, but we have Jeff White, who is the CEO of ClearSpend. We have Jeff Pitticow, who's the VP of product. And then almost last would be Derek Draper, the man, myth, and legend himself. And then last and least would be me, Nate Meadows, and the head of marketing here at ClearSpend. And we've been chatting a little bit about what's wrong with expense management today. And yes, we know it sucks. And I think a large part around our thinking in building ClearSpend is how can we make it suck less? I was recently on a podcast, Entrepreneurs on Fire, speaking about the very same topic. We'll be at Accounting Web Live Summit very soon, and doing a keynote and a breakout session on very similar topics. And if you're joining Accounting Web Live, we'd love to see you there. We'll be at booth 27. Come hang out with us. Again, Derek, myself, Uma, and Carrie will be there. So we'll have 4 really cool people. Jeff, I don't know if you're still coming or not, but
yeah, I'm definitely going to be there as well.
Awesome. Well, then you'll have 5.
I'm very excited about that.
It's there. Awesome. By the way,
yeah,
I love the chandelier, Jeff, that you have in your room there.
Oh, thanks, man. I try.
Yeah.
We're actually doing a construction project here at the house, so we're going to encourage those guys to go ahead and use our ClearSpend Go card as well. So we're adding on like 1,300 square feet on the back of the house. So I've migrated into my master bedroom right now as my temporary desk setup, which is just temporary, but nonetheless. So it's
So
it's not ideal.
What was the movie? Glenn Ross. Always Be Silent.
Yeah. Oh yeah, ABC, of course.
Yeah. Always be
It's not just that. I feel like the money pit right now, more like Tom Hanks, but that's okay. That's just the nature of this. Renovations are never fun, but once it's finished, it'll be great. So I'm looking forward to it. But no, I really appreciate everybody listening. And also, in addition to that, look forward to meeting people as well at the Accounting Web Summit, which will be fantastic.
Awesome. I could chat about this topic for a lot longer. There's so much more I feel like we could hit on. But with that, I'll see you guys later.
Thanks.
See you.